everyone, and welcome. My name is Maria Tranquilli, and I'm a program manager at NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. For those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. We will open up for live Q&A at the end of this event, so please submit your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout this presentation. And none of what we do would be possible without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, who include NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, NZTE, and Microsoft for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions. During these unique times, we are very curious about sentiment and how you are feeling as entrepreneurs within our community. So I would like to launch 2 polls to see how you are doing and what is on your mind currently. Launching the first poll, how are you currently feeling? Are you feeling fearful, anxious? Are you surviving, or are you feeling optimistic? Please let us know. Wonderful. I'll share those results. It looks like we have a very optimistic bunch with us today. Wonderful to see. And our second poll, what is keeping you up at night? Is it finance, sales? Is it marketing, scaling? Maybe it's pivoting your team or surviving. Please let us know here in the poll. Thank you all so much for contributing, sharing those results. Now it looks like sales is our #1, what is keeping us up at night. I think everyone is in the right place then. Let's see. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our speaker and welcome all of you to Unstoppable Confidence to Sell, Pitch, and Present Virtually. Today, you will cover how to become the most confident you can be and within high impact in virtual communications and environments. We'll learn how to use your voice, your body language, and other tools to engage the audience. You'll learn how to develop a clear, persuasive message that builds trust in a virtual environment, and to develop confidence and skill in using virtual tools to immediately get in front of the camera. Casey Carpenter, thank you so much for joining us. Casey is an award-winning executive presentation and leadership consultant, trainer, and coach at Global Public Speaking LLC. Casey, again, we're so happy to have you here today.
Maria, thank you for that wonderful welcome. Why don't we just go ahead and dive right in? So who am I? Who am I really? Well, I grew into my career, and I have to tell you, I had a very rocky start. I started in sales. Now, if I were to ask you, how would you describe a successful salesperson? You probably would say things like, oh, they're confident, they've got an outgoing personality, chatty, they're talkative. Oh, maybe they're one of those people that everybody knows. That's probably what you would say. Well, to start, I had very few of those attributes. In fact, I was born with 4 strikes against me. I am an introvert. I am highly sensitive. I also was painfully shy and scared to speak up. Now, wouldn't you agree? None of those are exactly winning business skills, right? I nearly was fired from my first sales job until they discovered that I was excellent at leading group presentations and sales calls. So in other words, I was really good at the public speaking part. And I stumbled then upon something that I carry forth to this very day, and that is your ability to speak well, to stand and deliver while using your presence is going to differentiate you in the market. So when you harness it, your gravitas can really take you anywhere, any conference room, any boardroom. You're going to command that entire room, and you get to do it virtually now. So one of my biggest joys is working with founders to pitch their business ideas. I don't have to tell you, sales is leadership. You may not think about yourself as a salesperson, yet you really are when you have to pitch your company every single day. Now, recently, as part of my pitch coaching, I was working with a woman who baked the most incredible cheesecake. I mean, literally so good, it would melt into your mouth and it would make you swoon. I bet you can taste it now, can't you? Well, here's the thing. She kept holding herself back when she spoke, and I could really sense and feel a lot of hesitation on her part. She didn't make eye contact, and when she practiced her pitch, she kept looking down like this. She finally said to me, she said, "Look, Coach Casey, I'm really not comfortable doing this. I'm really at my best when I'm behind the scenes, like when I'm in my kitchen and I'm baking. Could you do it for me?" She was half serious about that last part, but she was the CEO of her enterprise and she was abdicating her power all over the place. I tried to help her with the words, but it was her body language that told the truth. She really was not ready to take on the leadership mantle. And we're going to talk about this today, how pitching can help you build on your leadership skills. And to lead, your words and actions need to align. So, as Maria said, today you're going to learn the 3 questions that will help you develop a clear, persuasive message that builds trust. We're also going to talk about 3 movements that make your pitch come alive, especially in a virtual format. And you're going to learn to communicate with integrity in a way that builds your leadership skills. You're going to leave this session with much more confidence and with skills that you can immediately use in your next pitch. So Isis is going to put a handout in the chat for you to follow along. Thank you in advance, Isis, for doing that. And if you'd like to stay in touch with us afterwards, which I really hope that you will do, Isis is also going to put a link into the chat to our newsletter where we send out public speaking tips by email. You're also going to get a free gift from us, and it is a virtual checklist to help you prepare for your next pitch. So let's start with the 3 questions. You're going to apply the 3 questions to help you develop a clear, persuasive message that builds trust, especially in a virtual format as we are today. These 3 questions will help you pitch, and they also will help you lead. Now, the first question, I don't know, it might sound a little basic, but it's very foundational. It's who. Who is your audience? And I invite you to think about a recent pitch and think specifically about that. Who were you pitching to? Put yourself in their shoes. What motivates them to get up in the morning and do what they do? So part of knowing your audience involves crafting your message in language that benefits them. Consider what this venture capitalist or angel has invested in before. What's their area of focus? How can you craft your pitch so that you grab their attention and you really keep them interested? What is it that you need to do? Think about that. One thing I can definitely share with you is you can do that by researching upfront and then tailoring your pitch to reflect who they are and what they care about. Okay, so the second question is, what is your goal? Think about that. What is your goal? What do you want your listeners to do as a result of hearing your pitch? Are you looking to inform them, persuade them? In your case, you are looking for them to buy into your idea and fund your venture. So many founders pitch their companies without ending with a clear, concise ask. And here's an example of what that might sound like. We are looking for $5 million to build a prototype, which we are going to test in the next 6 months before we go to market. So that's an example of something that's really clear. Remember, though, if it takes several meetings with a VC or an angel investor, you might have to decide when to make the ask. You'll have to feel out the situation and see when it's appropriate. Every single pitch that you do should have its own call to action based on whether this is the 5th or the first meeting with an investor? So these first two questions are fairly obvious, but the third question is not. And it is the key to unlocking your genuine confidence. At Global Public Speaking, we call this why you. So why you means, why do you care? What makes you do your best work every single day? What was a moment in your life that made you care? So, for example, here's my why you. I shared a little about myself when I introduced who I really am, and that's I'm still an introvert, because once an introvert, you're always an introvert, right? And I struggled with this when I was in corporate America initially. I really had a hard time. So, my why you is to inspire confidence in women leaders, because I remember so clearly when I was afraid to speak up. And when I was afraid to speak up, it was humiliating. It's almost like someone takes a lead blanket and puts it around your shoulders, and you're sitting in a meeting just feeling very dampened in spirit. I was humiliated many, many times. I'd go to meeting after meeting feeling as if I should be contributing something, and I would sit there and I would not say a single word. So I now do the work that I do so that fewer women leaders ever have to experience fear or embarrassment or that terrible lead blanket feeling. So that's my why you. Your why you statement is going to help you forge deeper connections. When you state why you care about something, it's going to be so much deeper than just getting the work done. Do you see? It's a lot deeper than getting the work done, doing your day to day, running your enterprise, and asking for funding. Your why you is going to enable others to understand your motivation and then go beneath the surface. Now, here's why else it's important. Investors aren't just investing in your business idea, which they know can change the moment it hits the market. They're investing in you, your motivation, your drive, your determination and grit to stick with it when things change. And that's why it's so important to include your why you statement, because it's also a powerful leadership tool. When you act in accordance with your why you are demonstrating integrity with your values and your beliefs. So, not right now, but after today, your homework assignment is going to be to write your why you. Why do you care about your business? And when was a moment in your life that really made you care? I don't know, maybe it was the moment when you decided to start a business. We all have our own businesses have that moment where we decide we're going to strike out on our own. We're going to forge our own path. And each of us has our own unique story about that. So consider starting your pitch with this story. It really is going to draw people in, and it goes way beyond the standard pitch language that investors hear all day long. You're going to stand out by using this why you statement. The why you captures your authenticity and your confidence, and it really just ensures that you're just as powerful through a camera lens as you are in person. That's so important to be able to do in this current environment. These 3 questions don't just help you with a pitch. That's what's so wonderful about them. They are critical before you communicate with your teams. As a leader with your teams, and especially in this environment where we really are emphasizing the human element of what we do in our work, you can't use a cookie cutter approach. You have to understand what motivates each individual person. If you have 3 different people on your team, I will bet you that different things motivate each person. One might like recognition, one might like time with their family. So it's really different. And As the leader, it's incumbent on you to really know them and to know what that is. When you do that, you're going to help the team bond as well as understand motivations and the commitment to the company's mission. So let's now transition. Just as the 3 questions helped you develop a clear, authentic message to build trust, there are also 3 movements. These 3 movements really do make your pitch come alive, especially in a virtual format. Now, the first is eye connection. Eye connection is having a one-on-one conversation right through that camera lens, just as I've been doing with you since we started. Did you notice that? Did you notice my eye contact? And I am looking right at you? That's what you will have to do as well. So you will look directly into the camera. And in order to do that, some of you may need to physically raise your laptop to eye level. Let me share a story about that and why it's so important. I belong to a mastermind group of coaches, and one of the coaches was practicing her pitch on us one day, which would be to women leaders. And she was excited about her program and had really worked hard on this. The program was an invitation to continue studying with her. So it would be a very intimate gathering where she would be mentoring ladies in a really important way. Here's what happened though. Her words were great, but her eyes were darting all around. She wasn't looking up. She wasn't really emoting. And I had to give her feedback that although her content was excellent, I find it really hard to read her because she wasn't looking at me. She was looking everywhere else, maybe down at her keyboard or looking at the screen instead of engaging right through that camera lens. And for what she was selling, that wasn't going to work. She needed to demonstrate more trustworthiness, and you do that, again, by looking right through that lens. Here's the thing, I don't need to tell you. We are all on so many virtual calls, aren't we? And we need to remember that looking directly at the camera equates to making good eye contact in person. Now, you're also going to want to engage on camera just as you would in a face-to-face interaction. So what you'll do is pause and look down when you want to read the virtual room. Keep your screen on gallery view so that you can see everyone. And that's how you can do that and continue to engage and keep your impact. So that's eye connection. The second movement is, what are you doing with your body? What do you do with your body language when you're on camera? Well, the same thing you do when we are in person. You want to be sure your viewers can see your hands and that any movement you make is aligned with what you're saying. Now, as for posture, you are always on. So that's really something to be mindful of. You're always on, even when you're not speaking. So a good thing to remember is to sit up straight, nice and tall, just like we were told when we were young kids sitting at the dinner table, right? It's good advice. You should be visible on camera from your head to your torso. So keep that in mind when you're actually adjusting the height of your laptop and being mindful of where your eyes are looking. Now, as for your facial expression, what do you do with your face? Something to know is that the camera pulls our faces down, and you can counteract this by having a slight half smile on your face. Otherwise, you may look disengaged, disinterested, or maybe even sad. So the first 2 movements are eye connection and body language. The third movement is technically not a movement at all. It is the sound of your voice. And we want to sound just as expressive on camera as we do in person. There's a particular technique that will unlock your voice and your body language, and that's called speaking with intention. And in a moment, you're going to get to practice that right along with me. Okay, so what does the word intention mean to you? If I asked you that, you probably say, well, Casey, it means having a goal or that you're committed to something. That's absolutely right. And we say focused energy. And one way to strengthen your leadership persona is to ensure that your voice matches your words. Now, imagine that I had started out today like this. Hi, Maria. How are you doing, everybody? I'm Casey Carpenter from Global Public Speaking. Well, we're here. I might as well get started. It's great to be here with you. Wow, right? Where was the impact? Where was the eye connection? Where was anything? You're more likely in that scenario to believe my voice and tone than my words. And I purposely started out today with a commanding voice, with a lot of great energy, so that you knew you were in the right place. In other words, I was someone that you wanted to hear. So I'm exercising my leadership by actually demonstrating the skills that I want to teach. Otherwise, what happens is I create a disconnect and have you thinking, I'm confused. Okay, she's the public speaking expert. Is she really happy to be here? So everything needs to be in alignment. Really keep that in mind when you do your next pitch. Okay, I promised you an exercise. So let's do an exercise around intention. What I'm going to ask is everybody stay on mute. That's really going to be important here. So on mute, you're going to introduce yourself with 0% intention. So it might sound something like what I just did. Good afternoon. I'm Casey Carpenter. Okay, now you try on mute. One sentence, 0 intention. Go ahead. That probably sounded really lackluster, didn't it? Dull. Like you really weren't saying good afternoon with any oomph. Okay, so now do the opposite. Still on mute. I want you to introduce yourself now with 100% intention. Go ahead. 100% intention, give it a go. Ah, I can imagine that sounded a lot more confident, a lot more energetic. Which voice do you want to use when pitching investors? Something to think about, yes? You definitely want the confident and energetic. So think about your intention when the next time that you go to pitch. What's my intention? How do I want to appear? How do I want to sound? How will I speak so that my words, my facial expressions, and my body language align? Okay, so we've talked about the 3 questions that you ask to craft an authentic message and the 3 movements to engage your audience. Now, the free gift that we provide when you sign up for our newsletter will remind you of these tools, and I really think that you're going to like it. So Isis, if you could again put that in the chat, that free gift that we are offering from Global Public Speaking. Communication. When you think about communication, it's not just about the words you use. It's about the actions behind the words. It's about your integrity. And integrity is your professionalism and consistency so that people know what they're going to get when they interact with you. That's really important to have that kind of consistency. How you act on Zoom, for example, is how they can expect you to act in person. So that's why it's so important to show up as your most authentic self on Zoom. And that's what the 3 questions and 3 movements help you do. They help you show up and really be your authentic self. So, where do you go from here? Well, I invite you to find a pitch partner to practice these exercises. Really great idea to get feedback on how your pitch is landing. And you can coach someone to coach you. Be specific and tell them what it is you're looking for. Could you please pay attention to my eye connection? I want to make sure that I am coming across in the most authentic and earnest way. So you coach someone to help you do that. And you tell them that you're going to be looking at them through the lens of the camera. Or maybe it's your body language because you want to have a little more dynamicism and animation when you speak. So you help somebody help you. Find a pitch partner. Always, the second thing is always practice your pitch out loud in advance. In fact, at Global Public Speaking, we do this before every single presentation. We run through it. We have a dress rehearsal. We get all the bugs out and make sure that we're comfortable. We also debrief every single presentation by asking what worked and what didn't. So can you imagine how helpful it is if you were to get that kind of feedback on your pitch? It could make a tremendous difference for you. Now, I also invite you to keep the learning process going. Go ahead and click on the link in the chat to sign up for our newsletter and to receive our free gift. And again, it's a virtual checklist for your next pitch. Now, you now have the tools that you need to pitch in an effective, engaging, and authentic way. We've covered the 3 questions that enable you to personalize and deliver an audience-centric pitch every single time. You've done your homework, you've done your research, you know what they care about. So isn't it wonderful to be able to craft a pitch that's going to land favorably upon their ears? Absolutely. We talked about the 3 movements that made that pitch come alive, especially thinking about intention, which gives your presentation that energy, purpose, that oomph. So these are just as relevant when you're presenting to your team as they are when you pitch to your investors. So why don't we now go and see what questions you have for me?
Casey, thank you so much. That's such a fantastic overview. I know that we have quite a few questions from this audience. So for all of you with us today, please submit your questions either in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and or in the chat. Now, I also know, as Casey had suggested, many people might be interested in having a pitch partner. And as I have mentioned in the chat, I also know that there are lots of founders, salespeople, authors, and others on this call that absolutely are looking to connect with each other. My advice to you is place your LinkedIn in the chat. And once you see who is here, I would say connect with each other and reach out to each other, knowing that you have the same intention of understanding how to be unstoppably confident. So with that said, please, again, submit your questions in the Q&A and or in the chat along with your LinkedIn Connect. I know that this community is fantastic and would love to connect with you. So Casey, we have quite a few questions here.
Yes.
First and foremost, what are some ways if a founder is selling live and let's say they have stumbled, let's say they have made a mistake, how do they actually redo that fumble? What might be some tactics or ways that you would advise people to correct a mistake that they've made?
Absolutely. Well, one of our mottos at Global Public Speaking is pause and breathe. And in our minds, when we feel we've made a mistake or we've stumbled, we really magnify the impact. And chances are it's not even half as bad as we are making it out to be. So it's perfectly okay to stop for a moment, take a breath, and to say, excuse me, let me back up for a moment. I need to restate that. And that's perfectly okay because you know what's so great about this environment is that it's almost leveled the playing field. We all are now figuring out video. We're all now on different platforms and stumbling and getting up again. It's okay. And I almost like to say the way that you handle a mistake, a so-called mistake, really shows a lot about who you are in business. Would you agree?
I 100% agree.
Yeah, yeah. So, sometimes a little humor works. Sometimes it's, oops, let me back up, please. I didn't mean to say that quite yet. I got a little ahead of myself. It humanizes you. We all do things like that. So it's okay.
Oh, Casey, vote of confidence for all of us. Thank you so much for that. So
Yeah.
we have a question from Alon. Thank you so much, Alon, for all of your comments, by the way. They're wonderful. We're hearing how much this webinar and training is beneficial to everyone. So again, thank you for sharing that. So Casey, what do you do when your audience looks bored or confused? How do you manage that inner voice that says, oh, no one is interested in what I'm presenting?
I have to ask your permission to tell you a 1-minute story about that very thing. May I tell you a story?
I say yes.
Okay. I was working in corporate America and I was responsible for doing leadership development and executive coaching and training on that level. And I was about to take on a subject that I had never touched before, which was ethics in the workplace. And I had a room full of directors and vice presidents and senior level people. And I just was all in my head. Oh my gosh, is this going to be okay? Are they going to like me? Ding, ding, ding. Are they going to like me? That's what runs my program. I want to be liked. So I launched into my program and it seemed to be going okay, except for one person sitting at the very head of the table. And she kept looking down at her shoe and picking the sole of her shoe. She never looked at me. She looked at her shoe and I could see her kind of pick, pick, pick. And I thought, oh, she doesn't like it. Oh my gosh, this is awful. They're never going to have me do this again. What am I going to do? And I said, okay, don't look at her. And I completely blocked her out. Well, on the first break, I resisted the urge to run from the room. And I stood there. And do you know what happened? She came over. She said, I have to tell you, this is the best workshop I have ever been to. I want to thank you so much for doing this. I am so grateful to the organization. You have no idea, dot, dot, dot. And I was floored. So I share this story with you to say, we really don't know what anyone else is thinking. We really don't know. And someone's way of processing information may make them look as though they've got kind of a blank face. Remember what I told you about having that half smile when we're on video? So if you're looking at your virtual room on gallery and everyone kind of has an expression that's pulled down a little, it doesn't mean to take it personally. It might not mean anything. What you can do is check in. You can say, okay, I'm going to pause for a moment. How's this landing with you? Go ahead and put it in the chat. So invite some engagement, change the energy up a little bit, because chances are you may be misreading that.
Such wise advice, Casey. Wow. I
Oh
mean,
my goodness.
so we have a lot of, I'm getting a lot of private messages that are like, absolutely, this is so helpful. So just so
Good.
you know and others know, this is really resonating. We have a question or two from Emily, and I'll read Emily's comment, which I think is very universal and really perhaps helpful for others.
Yes.
I really understand the lead blanket feeling that you describe. It resonates completely. I find myself comfortable with public speaking when I've had the chance to prepare. But what about when we're in the boardroom and have to speak ad hoc in high pressure situations? And an additional question that Emily asks is, how do you get past the lead blanket feeling when it's about being unprepared or feeling unrehearsed?
Yes, yes. Very often speaking off the cuff is something that, well, to use the same blanket analogy, it almost feels as though someone pulls the rug out from under you and you might be surprised. I would invite you, Emily, to think about your subject matter in advance and Chances are, if you really think about your subject matter as well as the agenda, and think about where might this meeting go, where might I be able to contribute in advance that might actually head off being asked to speak on something. And what I used to do was I would go into a meeting with a legal notepad, and in my left margin, I'd make little notes, bullet points about questions that I might raise or things that I might state that add to the discussion. So that's one way to feel super prepared, even though you might be asked something off the cuff. I like to also use cushioning statements that give me a moment to think, which might sound something like, wow, that is a fabulous question. And I'm not sure that I've really thought about it from that perspective. Give me a quick moment. Okay, here's what I think about that. So that you are buying some time, you're getting your thoughts together, and you're still retaining your executive presence. Is that helpful?
Emily, let us know. Give us some feedback in the chat. Casey, I will say it is helpful for me. I was hosting these events. I do the exact same thing that you are mentioning. So I will say buying a little bit of time so you can get yourself together. I have felt that personally, and I'm sure you have too. So Emily,
Yeah.
very helpful. Thank you, Casey.
Oh, good, good, good. You're welcome, Emily.
We have a question from Nicholas. What is the one or two things that most build trust when you're pitching or maybe selling for the first time?
I would love to know a little more about that. And I'm getting that the feeling that the first time is what's really making this question. That's what's important, because I'm thinking trust is something you want to have, whether it's your first time or your 1000th time. So is it, Nicholas, that you're looking for some techniques to give you confidence on your first opportunity? Is that it?
That's a great question, and we'll let Nicholas maybe chat with us. Nicholas, send me a message or send everyone a message in the chat for follow up. And Casey, I
Okay.
can actually speak if you don't mind. Maybe if you could speak to, let's say it's a founder, early stage founder, who I know we have lots of those in our audience currently, who are maybe pitching for the first time, or they're pitching, it's the first time in the round that they are in. Maybe they're pre-seed or seed, and they're pitching to an investor for the first time.
Okay. So the question was, what can they do to demonstrate authenticity? Was that the question? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very much what we covered today, which was, I really think that you can build an unshakable foundation for yourself when you know more about them. So it's that, who is your audience? Who is this person? Who is it that you're going to be pitching to? What do they care about? So that you can tailor your pitch and even have some of that information in your hip pocket. I really feel that research, you just can't go wrong with that kind of knowledge. Maybe in advance you check their LinkedIn or Google their name. Try to get some insight as to what kind of person they are, what kind of projects they like to fund. Are they into the arts? What is it about them, so that you can actually appeal in a little bit of a different way to this person? Because guess what? Underneath all of that, the business aspect, they're human beings too. So hopefully, is that helpful? And then of course, everything else that I said today, it's not just the research, but it is your intention. What's your intention for the pitch? How are you using your most powerful voice? How are you using your breath, pausing and breathing? Your words, having your gestures align with your messaging. All of those things are going to contribute to your presence as well as your confidence.
Casey, so helpful. Thank you so much for answering that. We have a comment from Miffy. Maybe you'd like to say yes or expand on it. Miffy says, I always like to remember that half of my audience loves a story and that the other half loves a fact. So I always have a couple of each up my sleeve. And this seems to help everyone be engaged.
Yes, I think that's great. And if you do have insight as to That's part of your who's in the audience, right? Who is in the audience might include things like, well, what's their thinking style? Can you intuit? Do they prefer story? Do they prefer fact? I would think one way to be able to get at that would be to look at their LinkedIn profile. Is it prosaic, and do they have stories and examples, or are they pretty much bulleted and getting to the point in the way that they describe their work? That might be one way to be able to tell. But I agree, a little bit of each, and you should be able to reach everyone who's in that audience.
Oh, that's a great tactic for us to check out their LinkedIn profile. I love.
Sure. Yeah.
We had an earlier question. Do you have any tips on how to handle when your voice warbles or shakes a little bit?
Yes. Taking a nice deep breath will usually help with that. Also, make sure, let's see, I'm going to make sure I can get that on camera. This is my global public speaking water bottle. Make sure that you are fully hydrated, and not just an hour before you speak. The day before, get enough water. Make sure you get enough sleep the night before. You don't want to be up cramming and pacing and practicing your pitch until 4 a.m. Get some rest, get some sleep, take care of your body. But usually sitting up nice and tall and getting that nice deep breath of air so that when you breathe, you push your words out on the exhale. So that will really kind of reduce that kind of sound in your voice. But water also, you can't get enough water.
Casey, I love that. I was actually practicing that exhale and that pushing as you were talking about it. So I'm sure everyone at home was doing the same.
Good.
We have a question from Philly, and it's a really specific question to their business, yet I believe it could be relevant for many others. So Philly has a bookkeeping service, and they're asking specifically, when I'm selling this to potential clients, how do you think it is best to sell them the feeling of assurance? How might they translate selling through a feeling of assurance? Do you have any examples?
I think the way I'd like to approach that question is, when we think about sales in general, we are selling a feeling. We are selling an outcome. We're selling a final result. We're hoping that what our product or service is going to improve someone's life in some way. So I guess to take this to a very, well, let's use the example of the bookkeeping service. What is the impact of not having your books kept properly? What might that cost you? So it not only financially, because there could be possible fines, there could be impacts from the Internal Revenue Service, but just in general, how are you going to find anything and really run an effective and tight business if you don't have bookkeeping? So I'm hoping that this is helping, Philly, because when we think about anything, even remember my example of the founder with her cheesecake, I cannot tell you how delicious that was. And I don't even eat dairy, and it was so good. What is great about cheesecake? Well, you really talk about the feeling that somebody's going to have when they're eating it, and maybe they bring it to an occasion. Well, I guess when we were able to do that, now you could have it delivered. You could have it delivered. What is the joy that somebody's going to have when they open that box? That's what we sell. The cake is the vehicle for getting us there. So does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Philly is saying, great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Philly.
Wonderful. So everyone that is still with us, Casey and myself, on behalf of NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, would love also to hear your thoughts. Isis has so kindly, our webinar host, has put the survey in the chat. Take a few moments as you continue to listen to Q&A to fill that survey out. We love your feedback. We love to know, what exactly would you like to hear more of? What are things that you would like to learn? That is actually how we bring people in like Casey, phenomenal experts that have wisdom to share. So let us know exactly how we're doing and what you would like to hear more of. So Casey, we have a few more minutes, and I have a question here specifically from a founder who is thinking about developing some online video to entice customers, to entice new customers. And they're wondering about how to embody that, what you're talking about, that confidence when they're actually recording and putting something on social media. Would that translate from live to a video? And are there any distinctions that they should be aware of?
It absolutely does translate, because when you think about your video presence, everything we've talked about today adds to that really confident, assured presence that you want to have as the founder of your business. So I would definitely say being mindful of things like your body language, your eye connection. What about your background? Do you think your background is important? Absolutely. What's behind you? What do people see? Those things all contribute to your confidence. I also still start with, who is your audience? So who are these videos for? Who are the people who are going to benefit from seeing the videos? What knowledge are they going to gain as a result of seeing the videos? And I will tell you that early in my speaking career, I told you I'm an introvert, I'm shy, I was scared. I made terrible eye contact. So look right at them and be their resource. Be the one who can really help guide them. And the less you think about you and your nervousness or your video or your production, the more you think about them, the better you will feel. It's really all about them.
Oh, such fantastic advice, Casey. That's how we feel every day when we do events like this. And I know that's how you feel. That's what you convey at this moment.
Yeah, it's not about me, it's about you all. And if I have some knowledge or insight that can help you, guess what? That makes my day. Really does.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And something, that we very much believe is that attention is the greatest gift that we can give each other. So it sounds very similar to what you're saying. The more attention we can give, it really is what develops relationships, that eye
Mhm.
contact, that presence. Is that
That's
right?
that's beautiful. I really like that. And that resonates for me, Maria, in this day and age when we are so distracted. And when we do stop indeed and give someone attention, you're right. It speaks volumes.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Casey. So I think we have one final question from Fred. Fred, thank you so much for submitting. How do you toe the line between exhibiting command of the subject matter versus coming off as arrogant?
Hmm.
Say to that, Casey.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess, Fred, it's part of it is your intention, and it's who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? And going back to what it's funny, we just talked about that, Maria, being of service. If I show up and I really want to be of service and help and educate and perhaps share what I know that other people might not know, I'm going to have a whole different energy about me than if I were to come in and say, well, yeah, I'm the expert. What is it that you want to know? It's a completely different vibe. So I think towing that line really, if you do some self-reflection and think about, how do I want to show up? How do I want to be perceived? How do I want them to remember me? What's the impact that I really want to have? I think that will help you, Fred, guide exactly what it is that you want to do and who you want to be, so that it's like being a guide, it's like being a servant leader. And that way you're inviting. It's a really type of inviting energy, rather one that might be a little off-putting and cause people not to engage with you, or worse, not to ask you any questions. I hope that's helpful.
Fred, let us know if that was helpful in the chat, please. Casey, thank you so much. So he says, great questions for framing, and thank you very much. Very helpful.
Very, very welcome.
Casey, as we wrap up, I'm actually curious, do you have any parting words of wisdom, maybe a few things that we need to take away from everything you've shared today?
Yes. Be easy on yourselves. Be easy with yourselves. As I stated before, we are all getting used to using video platforms. You know, we practice, we rehearse, things will still go a little bit awry. You may still have a glitch. It's okay. It is not a personal reflection on you, your talents, or your abilities. It is not. So handle it with grace, smile, be the amazing founder that I know you are. I mean, it takes a lot of grit to be a founder, doesn't it? You fall down, you get up, you fall down, you get up. There's a proverb that says, fall 7 times, get up 8. That's who you are. So it is perfectly okay. Just know that tomorrow's another day and handle everything that you do with grace, and you will be unforgettable.
Casey, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And for all of you with us still, take a moment to fill out the survey that we've placed in the chat. It benefits both Casey, myself, and NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. We love designing programs for you that truly meet your needs. And we wouldn't be able to do that without your feedback. So please take 2 to 3 minutes to let us know what your feedback is. And Casey, again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with our community, to share your insights and set such a great overview. On behalf of NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we would love for all of you here with us, we would love for you to join us in our next upcoming webinar events. We have one on Tuesday, November 17th, Top PR Tools and Tactics for Early Stage Startups, Big Impact and Low Budgets with Valerie Chan. We also have on Thursday, November 19th, our Mentor Makers Live event. Join us in celebration of the Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is next week. So again, to all of you, thank you so much for joining us. We're so grateful for your attention and for your time, and we hope you learned a great deal from Casey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.